Hello, hi, my name is Mo and I thought today I would talk about Cavetown. Now, I want to be really careful with the way that I word this video because it is a very touchy subject. So if I do say something wrong or you think that I've done anything in poor taste, please tell me in the comments because I don't want to put out a video like this and get it wrong and then just sort of keep it up. First of all, who is Cavetown? Well, Cavetown is a musician. He's a musician that I've been following for quite a few years now. Recently there's been some drama on Twitter, as there always is, and basically some old tweets and Tumblr posts from Cavetown were brought up and they weren't very good. He'd basically been saying some rather sort of ignorant and racist / anti-Semitic things. He was a teenager at the time and I don't think he fully understood why what he was saying was harmful. Not that that excuses anything. I'm not going to touch on that side of things very much in this video because I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm white, so it's not really my place to talk on this. The thing I want to address is an old Tumblr post was brought up in which Cavetown said the word tranny. Now, I am trans, so I can say that word. Not that I want to. I don't like that word. It's not a very nice word, you know. But anyway, that Tumblr post was brought up and Cavetown was accused of being transphobic. This put him in a position in which, in order to prove that he wasn't transphobic, he had to out himself. So Cavetown came out as transgender.
And so another slur comes up in this. I said the word tranny. I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm transgender, so you may not have known that, but I am, and so I do have the right to say this word uncensored, and I don't like the word. I don't want to say it ever again, so I won't, but it's just, I guess it's more important to me to not be seen as a transphobic cis person than to remain stealth, you know? So I just I felt like it was relevant to kind of tell you that now, and
if you watch the video, it's very clear that he did not want to come out. I strongly suspect that the person who brought up this Tumblr post suspected that Cavetown was transgender and wanted to out him. Because the thing is, for quite some time now, there's been some speculation on whether or not Cavetown was transgender. This always pissed me off because it was quite clear that Cavetown didn't want to talk about it. So I think it's very fair to assume that the person who brought up this post knew about all this. I think what we need to realise is that creators don't owe us anything. Cavetown is a musician, you know, he makes music. He's not here to talk about his personal life. The term cancel culture is thrown around a lot by people who just want to escape responsibility for shitty things that they've said. So what I want to talk about is how cancel culture disproportionately affects marginalised communities. If Cavetown wasn't trans, those tweets would have come up, he would have apologised for them, and he would have moved on. But because he was trans, he was put in a position where he had to come out when he didn't want to prove that he wasn't transphobic. That's really dangerous. We should never put people in that position. And I think we, and by we I mean people on the internet, people on Twitter, or whatever platform you're on, I think we need to be aware of this. Coming out when you're not ready is dangerous, you know? There's usually a very good reason why people don't want to come out. Anytime he's addressed this, he has been deliberately vague and he's deliberately tried to shut down the conversation. I think it's interesting to compare the situations of Cavetown and J.K. Rowling. What happens to J.K. Rowling when she's cancelled? Not much. She gets Twitter angry at her. She lost friends because of her shitty views, but she's still raking in money. She's still got a platform with millions and millions of followers. Now let's look at what happens to Cavetown when he's cancelled. He has to out himself as transgender. He had to share a vulnerable and private piece of information that he clearly didn't want people to know. And I'm disgusted at the response that I've seen on Twitter. I've seen people on Twitter saying it was about time he finally told the truth. Fuck off. people were saying things like, oh, he should have come out earlier. You know, he's got songs like Dysphoric and This Is Home where he's clearly talking about the struggles of trans people, and because we didn't know he was trans, it was like he was profiting off our experiences. And I've just got to say, I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. I'm sorry to break this to you guys, but he's a musician, not your best friend. He doesn't owe you any information. Musicians write songs about so many different things, you know? They write songs about stories they saw in the newspaper. They write songs about stories they've created. They write songs about their own personal experiences. If he's trans and he wants to write about his experience as a trans person, he shouldn't have to tell people he's trans, you know? I think a lot of this just comes back into that idea of parasocial relationships. The thing with parasocial relationships is there's a fine line between admiring them, enjoying their work, and then being inappropriate. A lot of people think that parasocial relationships are just inherently bad, and I don't think that. You know, I've got ADHD, I get hyperfixation really badly. I have a lot of parasocial love for many different creators, musicians, actors, TV show characters, but I know what is appropriate and what's not. I would never think that I was entitled to know anything about their private lives. I think there's a lot to learn from this situation, and I think the main takeaway from this is just don't back people into a corner in which the only way to prove that they're not transphobic or homophobic or whatever is to come out. You know, transphobia and homophobia is different to racism in that, you know, if I was to come out and I was to just start saying the N-word, right, it would be very clear that I'm racist because, well, I'm white. But if I was to come out and start saying the T-slur, you wouldn't necessarily know if I was transphobic or not. Because being trans and being gay doesn't have a certain look. If you don't know for sure that someone is cis, bringing up a post like that and expecting a response from them is dangerous. This whole cancelling situation reminds me of the ContraPoints video on cancel culture. In that video, she talked about this very thing, you know, she talked about how cancel culture disproportionately affects marginalised communities. And I think this is a really good example of it. Well, I say goods in quotation marks, because obviously it's not a nice situation. But yeah, if you haven't seen that video, I'd recommend giving it a watch. It touches on things in a much more cohesive manner than anything I could ever do. I think that's all I've really got to say. I hope this video was tasteful. I didn't know whether making it was a good idea. I felt like the conversation needed to be had, but also it felt a little bit wrong, sort of, to bring more attention to the fact that he'd been outed when he didn't want to be. You know what I mean? I don't know, it just feels wrong to sort of talk about him being trans when he didn't really want people to know he was trans. But I don't know. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if the title or the thumbnail or the content of this video is insensitive or misses the mark in any way, do tell me. And if it's the thumbnail or the title, I will change it. And if it's the video, well, maybe I'll take it down. It's a really hard topic to talk about because there are so many layers to this. But yeah, I think I've touched on everything I want to touch on. I guess subscribe if you want. I have a Patreon that I just started. There's not much on it yet, but all the money that I make goes towards my medical bills, so yeah. Oh, also, if you pledge $5, I draw a little picture of you. I'm at art school and I do art, so I thought I could draw pictures of people. If you want to know what the drawings look like, they look like that. I would do something more impressive and extravagant, but I'm at art school. I don't have the time. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, just Cops Hate Mo. I'm Cops Hate Mo on everything, so it's easy to remember. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you.